Was me and 5 Tajiks meeting in front of McDonald's at 5 in the morning. Dopros. Dopros is the word for interrogation. Showed them my passport. Это настоящий американский паспорт? Americanец? Ukhadi. You've been married to me all these years living here. Why does he speak Russian better than you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Timofey Dorovskih, and I represent LR Consulting. And today our guest is Nick from the United States. Hello, Nick.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Nice to meet you. And we will talk today about Nick's adventures, how he came to Russia, how he, in 2024, I think it was in August, came here. Well, now it's already almost June of 2025. He's a quite successful English teacher, and he will share with us his experience of Moscow, teaching school children, arguing with them, experiencing Russian culture, Russian traditions, transportation, and other things here in modern times.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about all these things, and I'll be happy to share my experience working with LR Consulting also.
Thank you, Nick. And let's maybe discuss first how actually you've heard about our company.
Actually, it was through a friend of mine who we both know, will leave unnamed, but in St. Petersburg. Actually, we met a few years ago there, and that led us down the road to where we are now.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, there are some good friends who introduced us to each other, and we were able to help you with all the legal issues while moving to Russia, which could be quite challenging. And we were thankfully got the result, and now with TRP, temporary residency permit, you are here. But anyway, let's start.
Let's come back for that, though. Actually, another friend of mine did pass me your contact, not knowing that we already knew each other. So even if I hadn't known my friend, I would have gotten the contact through Telegram. So
I see.
Would have been one more way I would have heard of the company.
I see, yeah. That's rather curious. And can you tell us a little bit about how actually you've came to the idea and thought about moving to Russia, and what was your first experience of Russia in your life?
Yeah, I was born in Michigan, which is a northern state, United States, and I lived there for the first 30 years. I worked as a postal worker for about 18 years, and when I was 30, I moved to Florida. I lived in Florida for the last 9 years prior to moving to Russia.
I see. Well, rather a strong change of climates from one to another. And didn't you feel a little bit a little bit uncomfortable moving from sunny Florida to frozen wastelands of Russia?
Yeah, actually, I'm from the Detroit area, and Detroit has really similar weather to Moscow in every season. But, like you said, I'd adjusted to Miami, and it's 30 degrees in January every year, so it's always summer in Miami. So yeah, it was a little bit difficult. Even though this winter was pretty mild in Moscow, still for me, I remember one morning getting up and it was minus 10. I wanted to go right back into the apartment.
I see. And what overall made what gave you the idea, the thought that you looking to move somewhere else?
Sure. Well, I came here a few times as a tourist. I came in 2022 and 2023, and I liked it. And I had a friend of mine in St. Petersburg. He worked as a teacher, so he kind of put the idea in my head, and other people that I talked to put the idea in my head of moving here. And then to live here as an American, the most natural thing to do is to teach English. So I decided I'd give it a try. So I quickly got a college education. I got certified as an English teacher. I started working online a bit. Then I was able to find a job in Moscow, and that was in February of last year. I actually made the agreement, and then I moved the following August, so about 10 months ago.
Okay, see. And what did you like not every person wants to move out of their country of birth. What did you see? Like, what made? How did you make this move?
Sure.
Why you made this decision?
Well, I started studying Russian about 5 years ago. I really enjoy studying the language. And I got a little bit older. I was a little bit dissatisfied working for the post office. I wanted to try to do something different. And the thing is, when you start approaching middle age, either you make a change or you don't. Because you can say, oh, I'll go when I'm 50, I'll go. No, but that will never happen. So I wanted to give it a try. I didn't have any children, so that makes things a lot simpler. I'm not very close to many people, so actually it wasn't that difficult of a decision. And naturally, people said, is it the right time? And my answer was, there will not be a right time.
I see. And what? So you saw an opportunity for an adventure of sorts and something that could be a change of pace, and you chose Russia. But what? First, what was the first interest in Russia? How did you, like, maybe growing up, heard or saw something about Russia? What was your, like, distant impression of it, and how it changed over time?
Well, I'm 40, so I pretty much, by the time I came of age, the Cold War had ended, so Russia wasn't a big topic in American life. But growing up as a child, I would watch movies, and to me, it's like, oh, Russia, it's all tough guys and sexy women. It must be the greatest country on earth. I thought it looked cool. My favorite character when I was younger was Ivan Drago. So he's the fake Soviet boxer in the Rocky movies. And I don't know. And then also around 6 years ago, I wanted to take a vacation to France. So I decided to study French. I found I really like studying languages, and I wanted to study with someone. Couldn't find anyone. Eventually, a Russian woman contacted me online in Krasnodar, so we started practicing French daily, and then after a while I thought, well, studying's fun, but I get tired after studying French for a while, so I'll study a little Russian too. And within a year, I was studying Russian full-time, and now my Russian is strong and my French is basically worthless.
I see. And насколько сложно было учить русский язык?
Ну, конечно, это довольно сложно, но это... Изучать язык — это просто вопрос мотивации.
Мне кажется, у кого-то есть предрасположенность, у кого-то ее нет. Это было, если говорить о мотивации, то есть мотивация была все-таки нравился язык, или это было...
Да, как для меня изучать испанский это практически невозможно. Это намного сложнее, чем русский. Почему? Потому что я не интересуюсь испанским. Но я очень сильно люблю жить здесь, и у меня много знакомых в России. Это классная страна, и я хотел попробовать, и у меня нет сомнения, что это был хороший выбор.
Your level of knowledge of Russian is quite impressive. And how many years you've spent studying?
5 years, but it's 5 years studying rather intensively without taking any breaks. Actually, my teacher once told me that I was one of the best students because I didn't at the time, at least, have a Russian girlfriend or a Russian wife, because that's usually the main motivation for people to study, which on one hand is good because it's a strong motivation. On the other hand, the minute that relationship hits trouble, they lose their motivation. People quit right away, so I suppose.
Well, I guess you might also say that if you have a person really close to you who is a representative of this culture and who you easily can communicate with, they act sort of like liaison between you and the outside world, and you don't have the burning need to learn the language, and actually they do things for you that you can do by yourself.
Yeah, and I'll get to that later because I have some thoughts on that, but growing up, my father was married to a Chinese woman. My father doesn't speak a word of Chinese, and they don't really have a close relationship. And it wasn't anything I ever wanted to be involved in, because you see it all the time with couples here where the teacher gets a Russian girlfriend and they speak English together all the time. Well, that's great for her, but it's not so great for the teacher. And also, if you're living here, I think you should speak Russian. If you're living in the United States, you can speak English, but I think it's very difficult to live here without the language.
Yeah. And overall, what were your initial impressions when you came here? And I guess you didn't know Russian as well as you know it now. Navigation, how do
Not
you
as
find it?
well. Initially, I wanted to come right away when I started studying in 2020, and that would have been an enormous mistake because at that time, привет, как дела, пока. Oops, that was all I could say. I'm really happy coronavirus happened in that sense because it delayed my first trip until 2022. When I did arrive, although I didn't speak like I do now, I spoke pretty well. So it was a big help. And when I first came, you get to Red Square and, you see St. Basil's Cathedral. Wow, it's, so impressive. You remember it from Tetris and things like that in American culture, which is a silly video game, but it's the way it is. And, yeah, for the most part, people were very friendly, particularly in Moscow, particularly in tourist areas. But again, we'll revisit that in a bit. It's in the tourist areas, it's very nice. When you go outside of it, it's not that the people change, it's just that the patience begins to wear thin because when people are going about their daily life 20 kilometers from the center, it's less of a novelty to run into an American. It's more of a hindrance.
I see. And what any culture shocks you've experienced during your first visit or maybe later, what were like starking differences
There
that
were a
you've
few
noticed?
things I found odd. Russians are much more preoccupied with hygiene than Americans are. Not that Americans are dirty people, but here it's wash your hands again. Wipe that down. Put something down to sit there. Don't sit there. Don't touch that. Put on slippers. Sometimes it's a little bit tiring. And the other thing, as I would learn later, is the bureaucracy can be quite challenging. Other than that, I would say actually living here, I was very close to what I expected.
And any maybe similarities that maybe were striking to you, or you just found that that is interesting, that these things are actually we have in common?
Well, there are similarities. I'd have to think about it for a moment. One thing I find just very strange is the prevalence of American pop music, especially like hip hop. I remember thinking this in Kazan 2 years ago. I'm in a taxi and they're playing hip hop, and all I could think is, I hate this music. The driver doesn't understand a word. Why are we listening to it? The differences stick out more than the similarities, and it's smaller things like the consumer goods. The quality of consumer goods is lower here, and the quantity is enormously lower in the average apartment than it is in America. People just have a lot less stuff, and if they want to get rid of something, they're more likely to sell it here. When you're done with something in America, you throw it away. Here, people hold on to it forever. It goes to a dacha, or they go into a house chat to sell it for 300 rubles. Why someone wants to go through the trouble of an interpersonal interaction for $3, I don't know, but it is common here.
Well, it's you build communication that way.
I suppose so.
Meet new people. And by the way, have you lived in an apartment building or like big apartment buildings back in the States?
Yeah, I did live in Florida. In Florida, I lived in Fort Lauderdale. I lived actually right on the beach. It was cool. And my building was 29 stories.
Oh.
And the one I'm in now is 31, so very similar.
So in that way, you didn't experience a lot of...
Yeah, it wasn't such a shock. It would be for a lot of people, especially where I'm from in Michigan. Most things are single-family homes. That's classic America. But because I'd spent a long time in Florida in a larger building, it made the transition much easier. One difference in America to Russia also is washing machines. A washing machine in an apartment in America is a luxury. Maybe 40% of apartments have them at the most. Here, everyone has it. On the other hand, we always have dryers. So that's something to get used to here, the complete lack of them.
Well, there are, of course, laundromats around the city. But yeah, overall, I might say... well,
there's laundromats, but there's a lot less of them. A laundromat's a fixture in a major city in America. You find them easily. And you can find them here, but they're not going to stick out walking down the street.
Yeah, but, well... on the other hand, it makes it a little bit more difficult to sleep at night when you hear a plane trying to lift off, and then you understand that it's not a plane, but a washing machine.
Yeah.
And talking about thinking about moving and thinking about how to do it, where did you find the initial information about how to come here, how to like set things up, and did you face any difficulties? If so, what were they?
Didn't have too much trouble. So by the time I came here, I was already teaching online fairly regularly, and my teaching has always been focused on Russian students because I can speak Russian to some degree at least. A lot of the information about moving here and some of the initial things like that, it was from speaking to a friend of mine in St. Petersburg, because he's from Canada and he had lived here for several years, so he answered the questions. But honestly, I think I did a lot more myself than a typical Westerner that comes here does, because in my experience, most Westerners, they get a girlfriend, and the girlfriend takes care of everything. They talk for them, they arrange this, they arrange that. I never had this. I went through all these things by myself, which is interesting.
Oh, some challenges
Can be challenging at times, yeah.
And in terms of like finding information, finding what you need, I guess it was easier for you knowing the language to get them, but overall...
there's some surprises. Things like taking photos of your meters for utilities at the end of the month, which it's all just directly calculated. And, just arranging to get internet put in, getting your SIM card, all these things are done exclusively in Russian. So it can be a bit challenging at times if someone is a little short on patience, but overall, I think it went pretty well.
And overall, I guess you might tell us how many people, in your experience, speak English in Moscow, and since you visited not only Moscow but other cities in Russia, how many people speak English?
I think the overall level of English is pretty poor. Now, I very, very rarely, I can't really recall very many times at all that I resorted to speaking English to make a point across casually. Now, sometimes I'll get frustrated in conversation with a friend or a student or something. I might speak something in English, but I always was able to get my point across and ask anything I wanted. So I guess I'm not the best judge of the level of English because I just don't use it that much unless the situation calls for it. But my impression is, particularly outside of Moscow, the level is very low. Petersburg, it's good. And you get to some of the other cities, it's okay. But when you go to Samara, which I visited, which was a nice city, but I showed them my passport. Это настоящий американский паспорт? Почему ты здесь? That's the reaction you get.
Yeah. Any other funny stories? Maybe some interactions?
Getting there was funny because getting there was, I was in Kazan. I had a friend in Samara. I wanted to go visit her. I thought, I'll buy a train ticket. No, there's no train ticket. Okay, I'll buy a bus ticket. Not really. I bought a micro autobus ticket, which means was me and 5 Tajiks meeting in front of McDonald's at 5 a.m. to drive 4 hours to the back roads of Russia to Samara, which was just like a true tourist. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, a rather exclusive experience that you can get only in some secluded areas.
Another funny thing was the first day I checked into my hotel for the first time in Moscow. It was a few years ago. And I was speaking to a woman in the elevator. Oh, I'm really excited to be here. And she says, Откуда ты? Florida. Yeah, Americanus. Хорошо. Подожди. Why does she want me to wait? Okay, I wait. She comes back with her husband. Her husband's from Florida. Nice guy. She starts yelling at him right away. You've been married to me all these years living here. Why does he speak Russian better than you? It was a pretty funny experience.
Yeah.
Nice couple. I had dinner with them, but yeah, it was a funny experience.
I see. And talking about that, how difficult or what were your interactions with other expats? Any stories talking with Americans?
I've met
other people. What was it like?
I've met them here. I don't really like the expat community as a whole because they're a little bit religious, or some of them are very preoccupied with politics. So it can be boring to speak to them. And I just don't feel like I had a whole lot in common with them. So there is an expat community. They have regular meetups, but I've just never really been a part of it here.
From what I see, it's rather a change happened, of course, after 2022.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And many people left, and even somewhat before that. And now it's like a somewhat a different set of people
Yeah,
you can find around.
A lot of the people that come and stay at this point have certain ideological predispositions, which is fine, and they're entitled to their opinion, but I just can find it a little bit tiresome at times.
Well, other people with other predispositions just also left us.
Right.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, I think it's on the other hand, maybe there is some need for more community resources, some news outlets. Maybe have you found something that is useful that gave you a better understanding of some things? Or
they're not exactly for me, but there are multiple expat groups, and some of them are very well run, and they do have events. And if a person was seeking it, they could find a sense of community here in the expat community. It's not so appealing to me, but that's just a personal choice. But I think anyone interested in moving here should know that they do have events, they do have groups, they are run by, decent people, and there is, you will be able to find people to speak English with. You won't feel overwhelmed, particularly in Moscow. You're not going to feel overwhelmed. It's a very modern, contemporary city. It's a nice place.
And talking about Moscow maybe a little bit more, and overall, of course, living in Florida also, as you mentioned, also in the city, how all the services and all the things that work there compared to here? What did you see? What is different? Maybe you can see or comment on what's the transportation situation is like compare with the between cities you've even been to in Russia and States.
Sure, yeah. Well, there's good and bad points. One thing, because of Russian society is very urban. It's all based around cities, and public transportation is widely accepted. In America, public transportation is for losers. It's for drunks. If someone's on a bus, it's because they have a DUI. They lost their license. Here, on the bus, it's kind of still that way, but in the subway, not so much. But it's really well maintained, actually. It's pretty reliable. The subway is much cleaner. The subway stations are beautiful, which people should know about. Some of them are true works of art. But the subway in America, particularly in New York, it's very dirty and it's very dangerous. Another big difference between America and Russia is the homeless. The amount of homeless you'll encounter in any American city dwarfs. You'll see a few people panhandling here, but it's usually the same people over and over. But it's a rarity overall. It's a very minor problem in Moscow.
Well, in this regard, I would say the change of temperatures also and difference to temperatures also play its role. But it's nothing in like.
Yeah. Oh, of course, it's a contributing factor. But so far as things like infrastructure, things work here reasonably well, but they don't look as nice. You look at the outside of buildings, they're very run down compared to what you'll run into in America. Now, the actual nuts and bolts of how the city works, it works pretty well, but the buildings are not maintained. It's not just architecture either. It's just, things don't get painted for 30 years. Shutters are hanging off. Garbage isn't really a big problem in Moscow. It's picked up off the street, but a little bit of paint and a little bit of elbow grease would really beautify quite a few of the areas here.
And in terms of overall dynamic of moving through the city, and as you mentioned, public transport is more prevalent in Moscow and in St. Petersburg compared to American cities. But overall, what's the experience of going through it? How interacting with people?
Getting around is pretty easy. Yandex is great. It's very affordable, particularly if someone is coming
Yandex
here as a tourist.
The taxi service.
Yeah, Yandex is the taxi service here. Run just like Uber in America, but it's much more affordable. It's really as long as you're outside of rush hour, which you should not take Yandex at rush hour anywhere. But outside of that, it works really well. And getting around is easy. Except going to the center of Moscow. Because of the current situation, GPS works very poorly in the center, so you'll really want to take a look at the actual maps that you can see posted frequently just to get your bearings on where you are, because your GPS is going to fail you once you get to the center.
Yeah, well, let's hope that's only a temporary issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. switching back to another topic, in terms of like Russian culture and your sites you saw, things you visited, and just what can you tell us? What was your like getting deep into culture, and what's maybe some the most memorable places you visited here, like not only in Moscow but
Well, sure, I'll
across
start
the
with
country?
Moscow. Of course, the classic is Red Square. It's what everyone's seen in movies 100 times. There's also a large monument park called VDNH, which is really impressive. Really, nothing comparable in the United States. We have monuments, we have beautiful places too, but it's a unique area. They have pavilions for all the former Soviet republics. There's multiple museums. There's always exhibitions there. There's a great space museum. VDNH is a really cool place to go. And there's a lot of food options there also. So far as outside of Moscow, Nizhny Novgorod, which is where my Russian teacher lives, is a beautiful city. It's known as the sunset capital of Russia. It's pretty popular tourist destination now because internal tourism has become increasingly popular in Russia. St. Petersburg is classically beautiful if you're there for the 3 days of summer. If you're there for the 362 days of winter, it's a little bit rough. But if you see those 3 days of summer, it's beautiful. Sochi, I don't know. I think for Russian citizens, Sochi is very impressive. But if you've been to more tropical climates, it doesn't really compare. It's really interesting in the sense of you have the beach and the mountains together. That's very unique. But the actual beaches in Sochi, I didn't think they were that great. Kazan is also really interesting. The architecture in Kazan, because of the Muslim influence. Kazan's a really interesting, beautiful city to see.
I see. And yeah, you mentioned Sochi. So there is this tiny bit of subtropical climate actually in Russia, and you didn't say you weren't that impressed compared to Florida, I guess.
I was there in 2023. At that time, I lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I walked past a sign, and it was Scrooge McDuck. It was like graffiti, and it was Scrooge McDuck with a cigar. It says, "Better than Miami, Lucha in Miami." No, it's not.
Well, I guess lack of alligators maybe.
Yeah, it has selling points. It's cool. It's a really cool city, and it's surprising. I mean, you see palm trees in Russia, which nobody's at all conditioned to see. So it's really an interesting place, but it's just that the beach there is nothing but stones for the most part. There's a little bit of sand beach if you want to pay an extra fee, but most of the beaches are very rocky. And again, because of internal tourism at the moment, the beaches are shoulder to shoulder packed.
Yeah. Well, since they
Of course.
there is
For obvious reasons.
a lot of demand for the real estate and for the warm, nice place under the sun. Yeah, there is quite a few people there. But yeah, who knows? Who knew that there are actually palm trees in Russia?
Right. Yeah,
And
it is surprising.
if we make a quiz, we can also ask what other animals, for example, live in Russia, and no one would have guessed that tigers are actually in Russia too. They live there, but on the other side of the country.
Right. Oh, it's a big, really interesting place.
Well, actually, Russia and America is not that far away from. I think it's like 3 or maybe 10 kilometers.
Oh yeah,
from each other.
they're extremely close in one narrow area. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely, practically neighbors.
yeah, but on the very far east.
Very far and unpopulated east.
Let's move to the topic of how to get into Russia and how to stay here in terms of like legal issues and so on. How did you find this process? Was it difficult? Was it challenging? And in terms of assistance that we were able to provide you, how did you find the overall? What was it like? Okay.
Well, it's a big question. So going back to the beginning, like I said, I was able to find work with a company that places teachers here. And so I got a work visa. So to get a work visa, I went to New York City to go to the visa center, which was at the time operating, may not be. It's difficult to say at the time. I know Washington, you can still get them.
Yeah. Well, the good thing, sorry, I'll interrupt a little bit, but it seems since there is some improvements in the relations, there should be some a new center is opening at least around the US. So hopefully, it will be changed in the near future.
Yeah, I know that after I received my work visa, at least at one point you had to have an interview at a consulate or a visa center to receive a visa. I don't know if that's still the case. That'd be something to speak to someone like yourself about. So yeah, I got the work visa, which every work visa is 90 days to start. So you get the work visa, you come in, and then they extend it out to a year. Now, I knew I wouldn't want to spend my life working in a school as a school teacher because...
But sorry, and how did you find? What was the interview like? Was it difficult? Was it?
At the time, I didn't take an interview.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't interviewed. I went to the visa center just to simplify things. So getting a work visa was really easy. I went there with my application and I paid a fee to have it processed quickly, and I picked it up the next day.
Okay.
So it was really easy. And then when I came, the company extended my visa.
And crossing the border, did you have any issues back then?
Yes.
Or any visits before?
I had quite a long conversation with the government when I arrived, which is asking about all of the current topics. And it was uncomfortable, but since I didn't have anything to hide, it wasn't that bad. And it was mostly about determining my level of English and my level of Russian. So we would go in and out of Russian, but they weren't particularly unfriendly. But it was, it was quite an ordeal to go through.
Rather stressful, I guess, and rather tiresome.
Better to be prepared for it. So there's a very good chance if you're a Westerner coming that they may take your passport when you go to passport control. Then you're going to go over to a separate area and you're going to have a lovely chat. And when your chat's over, and I haven't heard of anybody having a problem after it, you have your chat, they give you your passport, and then you can go through.
But did you have such long conversations every time you visited previously?
No, I didn't have, visiting in 2022 and 2023, I didn't have issues. Coming here on their work visa in 2024, I had a very long dopros. Dopros is the word for interrogation. Though I had made a short trip to Kazakhstan in December, which meant leaving the country and coming back. On that time, I had no issues. So of 4 entries into Russia, I had an issue one time.
I see. And when you arrived on the work visa, what was your experience then? You've had to prolong it, as you mentioned. And
yeah, the company extended it, but I arrived here in August, and in September they announced the new presidential decree allowing people from less than friendly countries to stay if they share traditional Russian values. I wanted to apply into this program, and it took a while to get things together. So at first I got my documents together. I went to the migration center, showed them everything. They asked for my passport. I gave them my passport. Amerikanец? Uhadi. Uhadi means leave. And that was it, because there is no recourse. So that wasn't too pleasant. And then, after thinking for a while, I decided to try into the new presidential decree, which I was a little bit hesitant to do at first because, again, I like to stay out of political issues. I was reassured that I would not have to sign any paperwork regarding it, which people should know. There's no pledge. There's nothing like that. You don't have to declare yourself an enemy of your own country, which I'm completely unwilling to do. So I applied into that. So using your guys' services, which came in very handy. And why? Because I think a person maybe could do it themselves, but it would really have quite a learning curve to it. There's a lot of paperwork involved. There's a lot of documents that you have to have. And they have to be timed. Everything is timed, certainly. You have to have a medical exam. That has a time frame on it. You have to have a criminal background check. That has a time frame on it. You have to have active registration. So you have to have a lot of things lined up at once. And what we had the biggest problem with was the translation of my passport, because every page has to be translated, including a translation of "this is an empty page" with page number 16 written on it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, our bureaucracy is quite rigorous in some areas where it shouldn't be.
Yeah, another thing that your company was able to provide is Again, assuming I had sent all the paperwork myself, then you get an explanation which is completely incomprehensible, even to you at times, of what was wrong with the paperwork. So imagine how it would have been for me. And the other issue is, let's say you have an application. The application's quite long. It's multiple pages. And let's say there's 12 issues, 12 problems with it. They might tell you about 2 if you're lucky. Next time they'll tell you about 1 more. They will not go through and tell you each one. So as soon as they find a problem, they stop processing, send it back to you. They sent the paperwork back a number of times, and the issues with the paperwork could be unbelievably petty. Brackets around a phone number when they didn't want brackets around a phone number. It was things of that nature. So things like that. And also, working with a lawyer from your company was able to communicate with the visa center, communicate with the local police for registration. Things like that were really valuable because it, again, I think maybe a person could do it, but it would have been very challenging for me. And even though it sounds a bit self-confident, I speak Russian much better than most people that will come here. So if I say that it's very difficult to handle, I think someone with less experience would find it impossible on their own.
Yeah, I see. Well, as you mentioned, sometimes, we had to get clarifications on what actually went wrong with papers. But overall, thankfully, we resolved it, and now you have the temporary residency permit.
Yeah, temporary residence permit's good for 3 years.
Yeah. So, and after that, what do you think about getting a residency and getting citizenship?
Well, I think in 1 year I'll apply for permanent residency. So temporary residency in Russian is called RVP, the document. Permanent residency is VNJ. I would like to get permanent residency, but not citizenship, because I don't believe in dual citizenship. It's just my personal feelings. I think you can be a citizen of one country.
But overall, maybe we just a little bit, you've mentioned it, but we skipped over, since you've applied through the new rules under like seemingly ideological grounds, as you mentioned, you didn't have to like sign any papers and just condemn the horrible treatment of whoever in the United
things
States.
I just would not have signed.
But overall, just maybe some people could have these reservations. What did you think? Is there any did you feel any pressure in terms of like ideological things?
No, I didn't. It's I think it's just to encourage immigration to a degree. Immigrations of ideally skilled individuals. But no, there wasn't any kind of pledge. There's no kind of talk like that when you're down at the visa center. They do ask you if you're prepared to serve in the military, but you can just say no, and that's it, which is I would suggest people do, because they shouldn't get involved in things that don't involve them. And the other thing, the decree has certain advantages to it. See, to get a temporary residence permit has been a long-term thing in Russia. But the presidential decree for unfriendly countries allows you to skip the language exam and the history exam and the civics exam. So, one, they could be quite difficult for some people. Another thing, it's just more paperwork and that has to be lined up. So anytime you can avoid any steps, it's really beneficial. So and also, the other thing, speaking of coming here, you can come on what's called a shared values visa to apply. See, I came here under a work visa and then applied, which is a little bit different circumstance, but that's not necessary anymore. Now you can come under shared values and apply for residency to go that route, which is what I would suggest to people.
Oh, and what about hobbies? Have you found any hobbies right here, or were you able to realize maybe some of your dreams and desires to do some stuff here in Russia?
No, not exactly. Similar to my hobbies in the United States. So I like reading, I like lifting weights, boxing, and of late bowling. Which, yes, there are bowling alleys here. The quality of bowling's a very interesting experience in Russia. Well, they don't follow any of the rules. In bowling, everyone has one ball, they wait their turn and go up. But Russian people can't do that. Russian people have to take your ball. They have to take any ball they can find, go run up there and throw it as quickly as they can. So it kind of disrupts the pace of the game.
Okay. Defeats the purpose.
Yeah, they don't seem to quite understand how to play.
Well, I don't know.
It's not popular.
I've been in bowling parlors a couple of times in my life, so I guess most of the people don't have a habit of sort of going to it like weekly or sort of like that.
Yeah, no, I understand, but
And I guess in States, more people are just like regulars.
well, in my childhood, it was huge. It used to be really popular in the United States. Now, everybody wants to play stupid video games, but people used to go places and do things, which was cool. And bowling was at one point very popular in the United States. Now a lot of the alleys are closing. It's kind of sad.
Now people are bowling alone.
Yeah, figuratively and literally speaking.
What about maybe some other things that you've tried maybe to pick up here, or you're just thinking what you can do?
No, I really enjoy working, and like I said, I do a lot of reading, but that's about it.
And how difficult? Are you reading in English or in Russian? Or
I can read in Russian, but it's not relaxing is the issue. I can do it and I can understand, but it's somewhat satisfying, but not relaxing. I like to read to relax, so probably 90% of the time I read in English.
Okay. And do you read on a tablet or trying to get physical copies?
No, I read on my phone because it's just a lot more convenient. I move around a lot. I probably moved 20 times in my adult life, so you get used to not buying books or dragging them around. Once in a while I'll have a paper book, but then I'll give it away.
I see. But well, yeah, unfortunately these days especially it's a little bit difficult to get paperbacks here, and people going digital. But yeah, it has its benefits.
Sure.
And talking about your teaching career, as you mentioned, you came here to work at school, and this was a start of your work as a teacher. And what did you find advantageous? What difficulties you had, and overall impressions?
Well, it's a little bit difficult to say. It's quite a bit different than what I'm used to, but it's because I work in a private school, a reasonably wealthy private school. So it's a lot different. The behavior is abysmal because all the teachers are afraid of the rich parents. So that can be challenging. There's no discipline, and there's no discipline allowed. So that can be challenging. Also, you can be given a certificate in teaching English, but it's not the same as having to come up with lesson plans and engaging children from grade 1 to grade 11, which is how the Russian system works. It goes from grade 1 to grade 9, and then the students can leave and go to a trade school, or they go on to grades 10 and 11, and they go to university. So grades 10 and 11 are smaller than the first 9 grades.
And you taught mostly older kids or small children?
I taught all 11. I taught all 11 classes. So from trying to teach phonetics to the first grade to trying to prepare 11th grade students for IGE. IGE is an optional exam that's very important for Russian students. So quite a broad range of teaching experience from doing that.
And what was your experience with these different categories of students?
Well, there are differences in the American system and the Russian system. For one thing, Russian math is much stronger than America. I've had young Russian students in America that have said the same thing. They consider math classes in the United States a joke. And from what I saw here, I think that's true. Math and physics are really strong subjects in the Russian system. On the negative side, they don't have school teams for sports. There's not a football team, a basketball team, and so forth. They play sports. They play these sports in gym class, which they call PE, just like we do. But, and then there are sports teams, but they're outside of the school, so it's not as accessible. And I think it's a real weak point in the education system here. I think it would be really well served by having a football team, by having a basketball team, things like this.
Well, usually, from my experience, it's, in a separate establishments, there are teams of different like regions and different
Yeah, they
sections you
have
can
them,
go.
but
But yeah, they are not
the
connected
school's a
usually to a school.
the school system's a natural infrastructure for athletics. Creating a separate one outside of it is remarkably inefficient.
Oh, that's fair. But for example, we also have, and you were taught at the private school, but mostly schools are just
Government schools.
government schools. They're simply publicly accessible, and every kids, all the citizens and non-citizens, if they're here legally, can go to the school. But aside from that, there are also musical schools
Mhm.
and art schools that are separate, and you can
Yeah.
apply to them and you can study there. And also, it's also state-run affairs. So there is sort of logic like that. There is sports schools, there are art schools, there are music schools, and you are free to choose.
Yeah, but it's a separate thing, and we have that in America to a degree too. In a place like New York, for instance, they do have these kind of academies for younger students. But sports is just a regular part of someone's life, and making it accessible like that, I don't think you can value it enough. I think it'd be much more beneficial to centralize that into the school system. I mean, you have natural rivalries between schools. And also, yes, there's teams outside of the school system, but we have that too for more talented children. The schools, playing in school is for everyone. Yes, we have higher level teams for children, for travel teams, things like that. We have that too. But we have the school that's everybody can play on those. And that's one thing that I would change. And so far as experience as an American teacher in school, well, it's interesting. The first month, I pretended not to speak Russian, and I heard all kinds of lovely comments about myself from students and the teachers there. So yeah, I found it an extremely unfriendly atmosphere to work in the school.
I see. And how did you face these challenges, and what did you find works for you, and how you were able to continue working and
Well, this leads into a point of advice here too. And people will read newspaper articles and they'll read about certain incidents. The main thing to remember here, even if you're given residency, is you are a guest. You are always a guest, no matter what form they give you. You're still a guest. So when you have these issues, you have a very limited range of things you can do. You basically have to be patient and wait it out, because the argument is not going to go in your favor.
I see. But like in terms of your, since you're teaching, but you left the school, right?
Yeah.
Right now, and how you were able to transform your career from working at a school, a private school, to
Well,
stage.
I had significant savings. I'm still a U.S. tax citizen, and I work online, but it's with students that pay in dollars. So, of course, because of tax reasons, I don't work for rubles here. I have worked for Skyeng, which is something I would suggest.
It's an online school.
It's an online school, and they do hire foreigners. So I would suggest Skyeng would be a resource that foreigners might want to look into when they come here.
So you see as the better way to do business as a teacher, work for yourself or private lessons.
Yeah, I think that would be better. But of course, you'll want to speak with a lawyer because you want to handle all your tax forms for that. So I would have to wait to do that myself. But that's the direction I would like to move in eventually. At the moment, I had significant savings when I come here, so I deal with that, and I still earn money, but I earn money that stays outside of the country, which isn't ideal, but I'll resolve that with time. I work for a company called italki, is my primary platform.
You see. Well, any tax issues, we're happy to help.
Right, yeah.
Any legal
That's what I wanted to.
So,
Yeah,
but yeah. But overall, what's your maybe some advice? Not to only discourage people from
Learn
working.
Russian. Learn Russian. That's what everyone needs to understand. If you don't understand in Russian, you're going to work with a very, very limited amount of students. Because what you're going to be taught, if anyone's considering a career change, they're going to tell you that Well, teaching English at all English instruction should be done in English. That's just a sales point. It's a lie. If you cannot speak a student's language, you're going to be very limited at the level you can work with. The best thing you could do is to study Russian on your own. It takes a long time. What else could you do? There are other things. You can, Telegram is good to do self-promotion. Instagram, despite restrictions, is still a good place to promote yourself here. Like I said, you could go to a place like Skyeng, but there's a lot of online schools that are interested in bringing on foreigners, and I suggest that people go that route rather than working in an actual school. What people have to understand is that it's not exactly a prestigious job to be a school teacher in Russia, and it's paid accordingly.
I see. And if you have any other advice for people looking to change careers or improve their current situation with teaching, they, I guess, can find your Telegram channel that is here in the description. So,
yeah, I'd be happy to speak with anyone.
Yeah, and you're sharing some experience, and in the future, as I understand, you're thinking about expanding.
Yeah, I'm considering my own platform in the future, so just stay tuned on that one.
Yeah, so you can message Nick, and surely he will help you with that.
Absolutely.
And we sure will be glad to aid you in other ways in terms of legal issues.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to thank Nick for being with us today and sharing all his experience and thoughts about moving to Russia. And I want once again to remind you that our company, LR Consulting, is providing a range of services for anyone seeking to move to Russia. We can give you all the information that you need on visas, on getting the temporary residency permit, and citizenship, and guide you and help smooth out this process. Right now, you can visit our website, lrconsulting.ru, that link is below, or go to our Telegram channel to see all the advice and all the information that we share with you. On our website, you can find our very helpful guide where we cover a range of topics about Russia that is not that easily could be found on the internet. So please stay with us, get in touch, and we are ready to answer your questions, aid you, and provide you with a consultation, and hope to see you here in Moscow. Goodbye.